Well, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time of day it is when you're joining us, thank you for taking time out of your day to invest in your own development and for joining us. My name is Todd Mosetter. I'm a vice president here at Building Champions, and I'm excited to be with you as we talk about the topic today about how leaders build high-performing teams. Every leader I know, every client I work with wants a high-performing team. But high performance isn't something you demand. It's something you create. Teams thrive when there's trust, clarity, accountability, and consistency. And the leader's mindset, behaviors, and daily action interactions, they set the tone for all of it. How we show up matters. So today, I want to give you a simple framework to help you strengthen your team's performance. We're going to talk about how you lead yourself first, how you can build trust, create clarity, practice accountability, and ultimately sustain the pace. So the first commitment of a high-performing team is this: self-leadership. When a team is struggling, leaders often look outward first. They start to point fingers. Why aren't they communicating better? Why don't they follow through the way I want them to? Why is there all this confusion on our team? And why is it that we feel so reactive? We're always fighting fires and never pulling up to do the hard strategy work. They're all fair questions. But the better starting question is, what is my leadership currently producing in the team? As leaders, we always get the combination of two things: what we create and what we allow. And as leaders, that means we set the tone, not just through strategy, but through our presence. When we as leaders lack clarity, we create confusion. If we avoid hard conversation, it often creates tension. If we're constantly overwhelmed, we may unintentionally create a culture of urgency. And if we ignore our own well-being, we may teach the team that exhaustion is the price of excellence. At Building Champions, we often think of leadership through three layers: self-leadership, team effectiveness, and organizational impact. And self-leadership comes first for a reason. Because the way as leaders, the way we manage our own thoughts, our behaviors, our energy, and our priorities, well, that shapes how our teams perform. So here's your first reflection question. I want you to ask yourself, what does it feel like to be on the other side of my leadership? When pressure rises, do I bring steadiness or anxiety? When priorities compete, do I bring clarity or confusion? When mistakes happen, do I bring curiosity or blame? Before we focus on leading others better, we have to start with leading ourselves well. Because the reality is that our teams, they often mirror us as leaders. The example we set becomes the environment our teams experience every day. And if we want to change the culture around us, we have to be willing to examine the culture we're creating through us. It starts with self-leadership. The second commitment: build trust intentionally. When trust is high, teams move faster. They communicate more honestly. They solve problems earlier. They give feedback more openly, and they recover from mistakes more effectively. But when trust is low, everything just feels heavier. Communication slows down. People start second guessing motives. Meetings become a bit more guarded. Talented people protect themselves instead of contributing fully. High trust teams choose a different path. They choose to believe the best about one another. They always try and assume positive intent first. At a deep level, they believe everyone on the team has something to offer, and they believe that purpose is shared and that the team actually works better together. As the leader, you get to go first in this. You build trust when you do what you say you'll do. You build trust when you communicate honestly. You build trust when you own your mistakes quickly. And you build trust when you show your team that performance and care aren't in competition. They actually can coexist. In fact, they need to coexist if you want to have high performance. So here's your next reflection question. Where does trust feel strong on your team right now? And where does it feel a bit fragile? Most leaders, they know the answer. They know where conversations are a bit guarded. They know where collaboration feels a bit forced. And they know when follow-through is lacking. Trust rarely will improve on its own. It grows through small, consistent actions, listening well, keeping commitments, addressing tension directly, and creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up. So my encouragement, my challenge to you, start with one area that feels fragile. What conversation needs to happen? What commitments need to be honored? What behavior needs to change? Trust is not built through intentions. It's built through consistent actions over time. The third commitment is this: create clarity around what matters most. One of the biggest challenges leaders face today isn't a lack of effort, but instead it's a lack of alignment. People can be working hard and still move in very different directions. They can be busy and still not make meaningful progress. They can be committed and still unclear about what success looks like. Well, that's why high-performing teams don't just work hard. They work from a shared understanding of what matters most. As leaders, there are 4 key areas where clarity matters first. Number 1, purpose. Why does this team exist? Number 2, priorities. What matters most right now? 3, roles. Who owns what? And 4, expectations. What does success look like? When those things are clear, people can make better decisions. They can move faster and stay aligned even when circumstances change. And we know how often circumstances change these days. When those things are unclear, teams, they begin to drift, just a little bit at first. But it causes us as leaders to often misdiagnose the problem. What looks like an accountability issue may actually be a clarity issue. What looks like resistance might actually be confusion. And what looks like underperformance may simply be uncertainty about what success actually requires. The fastest path to performance is often greater clarity and alignment. So here's a practical exercise you can use in your next team meeting. I want you to ask everyone on your team individually to answer these 3 questions. What are our top 3 priorities right now? What is the most important result we must deliver this quarter? And what behavior, if strengthened, would most improve our performance? Then compare everyone's answers. If everyone gives a different response, that's not a failure. It's actually an opportunity. You've just uncovered a clarity gap. The good news is that clarity can be created. You start by aligning around what matters most and then repeat it more often than you think is necessary. Clarity and alignment are not a one-time event. There are ongoing leadership responsibilities. People can move fast in different directions, or they can move together. Clarity is what makes the difference. The 4th commitment: practice shared ownership and accountability. There is a huge difference between a group of high performers and a high-performing team. A group of high performers, well, they may each own their individual goals. They share information, they coordinate work, they give updates, but they manage their own responsibilities. But a high-performing team, well, they own the collective outcome. They depend on each other. They adjust to one another. They solve problems together. And they understand that success is not just whether each person did their part. It's whether the team accomplishes what matters most. That shift may seem small, but it is so important. On a high-performing team, people don't only ask, did I do my job? They ask, are we accomplishing what we agreed mattered most? That kind of ownership, well, it requires trust, maturity, and self-leadership. It often shows up and sounds like this: we agreed that this mattered. We agreed to pursue this outcome together. So are we going to tell the truth, help each other, and keep moving forward? That type of accountability, it shows up in ordinary moments. Did we do what we said we would do? Did we raise an issue early? Did we own the mistake or the miss? Did we give feedback directly? And did we ask for help when we needed it? Shared ownership changes accountability from something the leader carries to something the team embraces. People take responsibility not just for their own commitments, but for the success of the team as a whole. So here's another reflection question for you to consider. Where have you allowed a lack of follow-through to become normal? Accountability is easier when expectations are clear and trust is strong. That's why high-performing teams don't normalize missed commitments. They normalize honest conversations, even when they're hard. They address issues early, before frustration builds and performance suffers. And they hold each other accountable to the standards and outcomes that they agreed to pursue together. And last, the fifth commitment, sustain the pace. One of the biggest misconceptions about high performance is that it means operating at full speed all the time. It doesn't. High-performing teams know when to push hard, but they also know how to recover, refocus, and sustain their energy over time. The challenge is that many teams mistake intensity for effectiveness. They're moving fast, solving problems, hitting goals, responding to constant demands. And for a while, it works. But eventually, the pace begins to take a toll. Decision-making slows. Patience wears thin. Creativity declines. You see relationships become strained. What once felt energizing just starts to feel exhausting. High performers can be especially vulnerable because they are often the last to notice it. It's their drive, commitment, and sense of responsibility, but those things can mask the warning signs until the cost just becomes too difficult to ignore. Sustainable performance isn't about doing less. It's about creating the rhythms, boundaries, and habits that allow people to bring their best, but over the long haul. So here's our final reflection question. Is the way we're working today sustainable for the results we're trying to achieve tomorrow? High-performing teams know how to push when needed, but they also know that long-term success requires more than effort and intensity. As leaders, we need to pay attention not only to the results being achieved, but the cost of achieving them. Sustainable performance comes from creating the conditions that allow people to do their best work consistently over time. As we close, I want to bring this back to your team. High-performing teams are not built in a single meeting or by a strategy document, a new initiative, or even talent alone. They are built through the experiences people have every day. They're built when we as leaders consistently create an environment where people trust each other, understand what matters most, take ownership of results, and have the support they need to sustain performance over time. That's why leadership matters. The way you show up, the conversations you have, the standards you reinforce, the behaviors you model. Those things shape the culture of your team more than any presentation or process ever will. And sometimes the most important thing a team can do is to step out of the day-to-day long enough to reflect, realign, and reconnect around what matters most. As we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with one final invitation. We've talked a lot today about what it takes to build a high-performing team. Trust, clarity, shared ownership, accountability, and sustainable performance. The challenge is that most teams rarely have the time or the space to focus on those things intentionally. That is exactly why we created the Building Champions experience. In mid-September, the 21st to the 24th, we'll be gathering leaders and teams together in Sun River, Oregon, for an immersive experience designed to help teams step away from the day-to-day, to reconnect around what matters most, so they can strengthen relationships, align priorities, and leave with a clear path forward. So my encouragement is simple. Don't come alone. Bring your team. Bring those people that you need to align with, the leaders who are carrying the weight alongside you. Bring the team that could benefit from dedicated time to think, reconnect, and build a stronger foundation for what comes next. Because high-performing teams don't happen by accident. They are built intentionally. And sometimes the most valuable thing a team can do is create the space to work on the team, not just in the team. And as an added benefit, teams of 5 or more receive a $500 discount per registration. So if you want to learn more, you can use the QR code on the screen, along with more information about who we are and how we partner with clients. Thank you so much for joining me today. We hope to see you and your team at the Building Champions experience.